Yeah, mate, let's go for it. Oh, yes! Woohoo! Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I'm down here at Swift Performance in Aylesbury, and I'm here for essentially stage 3 of my M2 Clubsport rebuild. Hopefully you've seen the first 2 videos, and today the exciting stuff happens. Fabian's essentially going to start the process of installing the engine back into the car and the chassis. He's removed the front subframe, which is currently sitting just behind the car, and he's pulled back and removed a few things in the engine bay itself. So now we essentially have a giant hole where the engine and the gearbox can be lifted up into the car. So the gearbox is going to get mounted onto this engine. It's going to go onto a fancy new trolley that they have down here at Swift, and the car is going to be lifted up in the air and everything is going to be pushed back up. So the engine will be on the subframe with the gearbox, and all of that will get pushed up into the car in one go, and everything will get connected, and away you go, just like that. But obviously it's not just like that. There's a lot of preparation that takes place beforehand because everything has to be perfect. You don't want to be catching any wiring or any hoses or anything, and you want to make sure that everything is ready. So Fabian's been going over everything with a fine comb this morning, and like I said, he's now in there removing the PS design shifter and preparing all of that area for what is going in. I can't remember if I've already talked about it, but I'm actually going back to the standard BMW manual shift knob because I really like the way that looks. It's been around since I think the E36, and it's still in their current M cars. So manual G87 M2s still has the same part number, I assume. I love that, and I did miss it when we put the PS design shifter in there. I know probably something like a CAE would be the way to go, but I just want to go back. I'm not going for lap times. I want my car to be very club sport. I like the fact it's got a standard steering wheel in there, a lot of standard interior, but yeah, it has things like the Recaro buckets, it has the Pinnacle cage in there, so it has a mixture of both, and that's what makes it a club sport. I'm very excited about it because this really is the back end of a long project the guys down here at Swift have been working on, and as I talked about in the first video, it was all of our decisions to stick the car in storage for 6 months because have I missed out on much driving? Not really. I'm kind of glad that it's been in storage, staying dry, staying off the salty roads, but I'm very much looking forward to getting it back on track and back on road. I can't wait to take this car to the Alps, hopefully with some friends, maybe with the guys from Swift, and just enjoy it for what it is and put a big smile back on my face. Right then, let's have a look over here. It's the engine, there's the engine bay. As you can see, he's just cleared everything up, tucked it all up. The subframe that was there the last time I saw it a few days ago is no longer there. And it's a lovely big open space, and a lovely clean open space, thanks to that dry ice cleaning, as you can see, especially in places like here that were really scummy. I did look at the CS console, but I think even at wholesale, it was about $5 or something. Yeah,
I really like this one.
The standard one? Yeah. Yeah.
Seeing as the other one's $5.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, just pulling out the shifter now.
Yeah.
Take a few more bits out, and then we'll have to take it out and put the stock one back in.
Brilliant. I promised him I'm not going to bother him too much today because obviously me talking to him means less work. We've got the charge cooler just sitting there. We've got bits and pieces of the Venturi up there and over here. All the bits that will eventually be bolted back together. That's the top brace that sits at the front of the engine, basically, closest to the windscreen. That's all part of the stiffening of the chassis, essentially. So you wouldn't get that in a normal 2 Series. We've got the wonderful Deadweight Industries battery there. Hopefully you guys have seen the build series of this car back in 2022, which seems like a long time ago now, where we did various stages, the cage, the seats, the suspension, the beautiful Bilstein suspension, which is probably hidden away in here because it's not light down there, and various other bits and pieces. But one of those stages was making the car a little bit lighter, and this Deadweight Industries battery has made a big difference. I think the stock battery was 23 kilos, and this one's about 7, but you can go even lighter. The reason I went with this one is it kind of represents what the standard battery does or has in terms of output. That appealed to me more than saving a couple of extra kilos and going for the really small one. Other upgrades included the brakes. So we've got AP racing brakes with RS29 pads on the front, the wonderful Pro Track wheels, which I absolutely love. Custom painted at CurbSafe, who are just around the corner to Swift Performance. And obviously they are clad with Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tyres. 295 on the rear now and 265 on the front, which is gives us a lot more mechanical grip and also means that we can be a bit more aggressive with the suspension and stuff. And the car is better in terms of tyre wear because there's more rubber to play with, essentially. Braking not bad. Braking isn't my issue. Maybe it should be shifting not bad. But I definitely need to get rid of control and shift because I've proved that I definitely have no control on the shift. Fabian has now craned the engine onto the front subframe, which is on this trolley jack that lifts up and down. So that is what's going to lift everything up into the car and the chassis. You can see it's just sitting there on the two main engine mounts, which are there and there. I'll head over and have a look at the car because the car is now up in the air. That is a lovely E92, absolutely beautiful. Love it. Look at those front wings, really, really nice. The bonnet, really classy. Anyway, back to the M2. As you can see from underneath now, that lovely big open space, that big expanse of room to play with. That's where the gearbox goes, and that's where the engine goes, and there's the drive shaft, and that is up into the interior, as you can see. Right, so I just wanted to show you this PowerFlex BMW shifter arm rear bush and bracket. It is that. This is the gear shifter. The knob ends up on the top there. This sits at the back, at the rear of the gear shifter linkage. Normally, with the BMW one that sits there, it's very rubbery. Now, people talk about, including myself, BMW boxes feeling extremely rubbery compared to, say, something in a Porsche, which feels very metallic. And one of the reasons for that is the OEM part of this is very rubbery. It's a lot softer, the bushing there. So it does move around a lot more than maybe you want. I tried an M2 here that was at Swift after I'd done my special shifting, and it had this in there, and it made a massive difference. So this is going into the car when we reinstall it. The royal we, Fabian reinstalls it. But this essentially sits up there, and there's where the gear stick goes up, so you can see it sits at the back of the whole linkage, the metalwork, and it just stops the amount of wobble and movement. I can't wait for the shifting jokes to stop. I really can't, but I don't think that will ever happen. Will it ever happen?
So yeah, the sections you have are the lower half here, which is the sump, then the lower part of the engine block, which I would call the girdle. Then you have the actual cylinder block itself, then the cylinder head, then your rocker cover at the top, all married together from top to bottom, creating the whole engine.
You know, it's not every day you get to see an engine like this. Oh, look at that. E90. I genuinely think that the E90 is one of the best looking M cars out there. And I know I say that about a lot of things. I love my M2 Comp. I think that's one of the best modern designs. I like the F80. I do like the G80 and the G81s as well. But that is just, in terms of sizing, dimensions and everything, it's just wonderful. We now have clutch and flywheel. Fabian's just been doing up the engine mounts there, and that is my gearbox. So looking forward to seeing that go onto there, like that. Just like that, hey?
Just like that, simple as that. If you could do that for me, that'd be lovely.
Yeah, 1 second. One-handed, I might be able to do it holding this camera. Gearbox is on.
It's on now, yeah. Gearbox is on. Just finally tighten up all the bolts properly.
Yep.
And we're near enough good to go in.
Wow. Look at that. That is so cool. And that's where the drive shaft goes onto, right?
So yeah, the prop shaft.
Prop shaft, rather. Here. Yep.
New OEM gear linkage will go onto the back.
Yep.
And yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's where the linkage sits.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Just been cleaning up the rotors a little bit because obviously it's not been used. I think one of the last times I used it was wet, so a bit of surface rust and corrosion on these. Probably give the calipers a bit of a clean, but once the car's all back together and running, I'm going to get it properly cleaned and detailed, just so it looks really good. Treat it to a proper detail before it gets cruddy and dirty again. Fabian has just removed the engine oil cooler radiator that sits up here. It's a little bit exposed, in my opinion, on most BMWs. It's down here, and the reason he took it off really is, aside from giving you more room, I suppose.
Yeah, it gets the oil cooler lines out of my way when I'm putting the engine back in, but also it gives us time to clean it out.
Yeah, look at all that stuff.
So yeah, we have, obviously you've now got the Zonsport grills.
Yeah.
The Zonsport, they would have stopped a lot of this.
Yeah.
I mean, there is tyre rubber here from...
Probably, yeah, that's probably prime. That's cup 2 right there. That's a good bit of cup 2. So the damage there, is that anything to worry about? It's quite...
The damage there, it's on a small amount of the cooler. It's not on the whole cooler. I would definitely, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a few companies out there who do protectors, which do stop a large amount of this damage. I'd be interested, and I'd be looking into potentially either replacing this or upgrading it.
Okay.
Just purely for a larger oil cooler so we can actually cool the engine oil down more.
I suppose especially any track work, that's where it's really beneficial.
Yeah, you can actually see the coolant radiator is quite heavily damaged.
Yeah. And then the main, is that the main?
So you've got the main coolant rad here.
Yeah.
You have the charge cooler rad here.
Okay.
And then you have the aircon condenser in the middle.
Okay. Oh, that's the aircon, of course. So I had these Zonsports, I put them on probably about 1,000 miles ago. Obviously they help, but still they're not, you know, there's only so much blocking you can do, because if you close that up anymore, then you're going to start...
You're not going to get the airflow.
Yeah, restrict the air. So... Fabian, what's 4, 6 inches? About that? Yeah?
Mine's about that.
That's, what's that, 4?
3.
3 inches. Okay, cool. You join us a little bit later, and as you can see, the engine is slowly making its way back up into the engine bay and in the position that it should be in. But Fabian's having to check everything as he does it, because if something catches, obviously the trolley jack has got a lot of force because it's lifting a lot of weight, and you know it could do some damage to anything. So he's just making sure that everything is clear and out of its way as it rises up slowly. Subframe bolts are going in, which means the engine is in the right place. That is the highest this engine has been for a while. And definitely the happiest it's been for a while as well. That's awesome. Just off camera, Fabian and Russ removed the clutch delay valve shim, I guess you'd call it. Inside the clutch sleeve, there's something that basically slows down the return of the clutch so that the clutch plates don't just return as fast as the pedal. If you sidestep the clutch, essentially, it would slow that process down, which I guess will give you...
day drive.
Yeah, will give you a bit of a smoother...
But on track, it does hinder you quite a bit. So therefore, you would need the gear changes to be quick.
Yes.
And with the clutch delay valve in, it's just gonna does what it says in the tin. It's gonna delay the clutch pedal coming back.
Yep.
So it's just gonna get in your way, really.
Yep.
So with it now removed, it's not like a normal conventional clutch delay valve. They're normally quite large. This was it was tiny. I'm not even sure you're gonna get it on camera.
Oh, there it is in the corner.
In the corner.
Put it in a bit of light.
So it is just a tiny little screw.
Look at that.
The secondary lambda sensors are now bolted in.
Yeah.
I'm going to do fuel line in a second.
Yeah.
Once we've done that, we're going to go on top and we're going to start putting all the charge pipes in, charge cooler, and some oil.
Awesome. You've got to go home at some point as well.
I have indeed.
Yeah. Before the car is lowered back on the ground, I thought we'll have a quick look at the rear end. We've got the Bilstein Clubsports in there, obviously all round. We had that fitted in 2022. We also have some Team Sherma parts in here. They call it the Small Axle Kinematics Kit. Should improve the rear traction and the rear setup in general. I did feel it a little bit on my 3 laps before I misshifted, but I wasn't pushing particularly hard. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what the kit adds. Along with the bigger wheels or smaller wheels and bigger tyres, so a bigger contact patch. This is obviously the rear subframe. It's nowhere near as sexy as the front one. A little bit of corrosion and stuff in there, but nothing to worry about. You can obviously see this is the diff as well. All these cooling vanes, they just sit out in the elements, so they're always going to be quite corroded. But again, nothing that I'm particularly worried about. Oh yeah, there's a nice view of my Bilstein. You can see on here, so red is rebound, blue is compression. I know that very well from back in my mountain biking days. And then you've got a bit of preload there as well. But again, I haven't really got to experience them too much because they went on and did a few track days, but looking forward to playing around with the settings on them and getting them dialed in perfectly for this new setup. Wow. So, that's a sight.
Yeah, we obviously haven't got the charge pipes on yet.
Yep.
The charge cooler, the J pipe. Just got to plumb up all the coolant lines, all
the
different various revs. And then,
whack oil in it.
Oil in it and
coolant.
turn it over.
Yeah. The engine's in, the gearbox is in. Fabian's just doing the last sort of finishing touches before he mechanically turns it over with the starter motor, but we'll talk to him more about that in a minute. Something else we're going to replace, these front lower control arms. The reason being is I had solid bushes from Suspension Secrets, but one of them on the driver's side has completely collapsed. We had to replace that, but they were so stuck in the original arms that we're now had to buy 2 new arms. I'm going to stick those solid millway bushes in these and fit them on. When I do get it back out on the road properly, I know there's that peace of mind that everything is as it should be, and I hopefully won't be back in here too soon. What have you been up to this morning on the car, sort of before I got here?
So yeah, before you got here, I was just again checking it over for myself when it was all quiet and no cameras around.
Yep.
Just checking
it.
it.
Wait, are you saying that I'm a distraction?
Slightly.
Russ, Russ says that sometimes as well.
Russ does as well. Yeah. Russ is a distraction as well. Just checking over everything, making sure that everything I have done up is tight and everything's paint marked, so I know it's tight.
Yep.
I've put the oil cooler in now.
Oh yes.
Cleaning it, so that's all in. Oil cooler lines are in and tight at the top.
Yeah.
Making sure that all the coolant lines are all connected in. Obviously last night when we left it, all the coolant lines are out.
Sure.
So I've now put all of them in, they're all tight and they're all in. The steering rack's now in with the electrical connectors. I've mainly only put it in so I don't get any electrical faults when I try and turn it over and start it for the first time.
Sure.
Obviously we've got all suspension arms, everything's still off it, which I'll leave off until we've run the car.
Yep.
We're actually going to run it without the exhaust on as well.
Okay.
Just because we've got to get back up for the gear selector.
Yes.
But again, it doesn't need the gear selector to start the car. We just need it to actually run, start, and make sure it's operating okay.
Yep.
Make sure there's no leaks as well. I need to build oil pressure before I start the car straight away.
Yep.
Obviously, the engine's been completely apart. It's been assembled with assembly lube, which is a thicker oil. but obviously it's not full of oil.
Okay.
So I need to put oil in the car now. Obviously oil cooler's empty, the engine's empty, I need to put oil in the car. I'm going to then turn the car over with the key, but spark plugs are removed, core packs are removed, and the injectors are disconnected. Yep. So it literally is just turning itself over. Okay. No pressure in the cylinders, so therefore I can build oil pressure as easy as possible. Yep. Then I can put all those things back in, and we can turn the key. So essentially a bit like, when your car doesn't start, it's just going to go dun 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 dun. Yeah, it's just going to turn over on the starter motor, nice and slowly, making sure we've got no leaks or any issues. Yeah. And then we can actually fire up the car. Excellent. Yeah. So we've got the coolant reservoir back in now. Yep. Obviously you can see all the coolant lines are on and everything, the belts are on, charge cooler lines are in. Obviously the charge cooler's not on yet. Yep. Doesn't need to be on right now. Sure. We're now going to, all the power lines are all connected. Ooh. So all of the main looms are plugged in and stuff as well? Yes, the main looms on the ECU down here, they're all plugged in. Wow. The ones to the car are all plugged in now. Excellent. So it is a case of take off some covers and put some oil in. Wow. So what is the capacity of these? So the service capacity is 6.5 litres. Okay. So this will take a bit more. Obviously the oil cooler's empty, the engine's bone dry. Of course. So it will take a bit more, but we'll start with 6.5 just to turn it over without starting the car. Yep. Unfortunately we can't check the oil level because it needs to be warm. Okay, and it's all electronic, isn't it, in this? It's all electronic in this. Yeah. So I'll probably put another ½ litre in. Yep. For safety reasons.
The Deadweight Industries battery is back in the boot, and Fabian's about to turn the ignition on for the first time in a long time. Ding ding, dong dong. Wow. Listen to that. She's alive. She's alive. She's alive. Whirring. Yeah. There's a few warnings coming up. A few noises. Yeah. It sounded very smooth, so that is a good sign, I'm guessing.
Yeah, no, it is a good sign. Yeah. Just going to make sure there's no oil leaks, which are obvious. Yep. I'll do that a few more times just to get it turning over and a bit more oil pressure. Obviously the car is stopping it turning over, I'm not doing that, the car's doing it. Purely because it notices there's no fuel and there's no spark, so it's trying not to start the car. Yeah. So I'm doing the opposite of what it wants to do. Yep, yep. But yeah, we're going to turn it over a few more times, making sure it's okay. Then we're going to build the rest up. We'll vacuum the coolant system, and then fill it with coolant and start it up.
So spark plugs are in. New plugs, yeah?
New plugs, dealer plugs. I've already connected the injectors in, so they're already in and tight. Yeah. Now I'm going to input the core packs.
Okay. And do they just pop in, right?
They just push in and they hold themselves in. I'm going to put the charge pipes, well the cover, the charge pipes and the intakes in, and then we're going to vacuum the coolant system.
The charge cooler is now on. The E-Venturi intakes are going in. And now I can really appreciate the fact that that all this dry ice cleaning, everything now looks really nice and clean and fresh under here. Once we've got the carbon engine bay cover on, it should look wonderful. Right, E-Venturi intake is now fitted. The charge cooler is now fitted. Everything is looking almost complete. You're going to do something with the coolant now.
Yeah, so in this lovely box, I've got a coolant vacuum filler kit. Okay. So what it'll do is I'll put it onto the coolant system, I'll put an airline to it, pull a trigger, and it will suck all the air out of this system. So therefore, what I can then do is put a hose onto it, into a coolant bottle, and then open the tap. What it'll do is it will force fill the coolant system, so I won't get any airlocks.
So it's essentially bleeding it in a way.
Yeah, it's essentially
getting rid of the air.
Yeah, it removes all the air, but it removes the air before you put coolant in. Okay. It's also a way of filling it as well.
Ah, yes, of course.
So yeah, we'll fit this in, wind it up so it's tight. Yep. And then it'll just suck the coolant in once I've...
Oh, is that like a siphon almost, like the old school siphoning petrol?
Like a siphon.
Yeah, brilliant. Physics, eh? Time to fire it up.
Time to fire it up.
Wow. So there you go. We've fired it up for the first time in 10 months or something. That's just awesome. The reason it was exceptionally loud is there's no exhaust on it, like literally nothing. Just to see it fire into life, the lights come on. This is good. This is awesome. Right. The front setup is all back together again. Lower control arms on. We've got the Milway bushers in there. Yeah, time for the wheels to go on, I guess.
We're going to bleed the brakes first.
Oh yeah, yep.
And engine roll bar.
Of course. Oh yeah. Here we go. Yeah, the last few bits of the jigsaw puzzle.
So we're now putting back the original shifter with an additional Powerflex bush at the back. This is going to give it literally next to no movement at all.
Okay.
So it's going to act as close as a short shifter as it can be, and hopefully we're going to not have any incidents. The stock BMW one has a lot of movement in it. Obviously, to make normal road use of it, actually quite nice.
Yep.
But we want it just a little bit stiffer now.
Mate, there's definitely something not right there. What do you mean? Have you got a hole in the floor as well, like Fred Flintstones? Yeah.
It's easy to get out though, look at that.
Just doing a bleed, brake fluid change, get everything ready brake-wise. And it was due for a brake fluid change as well, which is handy. So Remus exhaust back on. For those of you that aren't familiar with my exhaust setup, so this is a Remus that I got years ago from Motec. Titanium tips with carbon sleeves. As you can see, it's a bit brown underneath because it's an exhaust. The heat cycles and the elements that get to it. It is still fitted with OPF filters. If I just remove those and had straight through pipes, it would be too loud for the majority of circuits. That's something that I think a lot of countries, especially in Europe, you have to deal with is noise levels. So the last thing I want to do is make it too loud, so I'm having to take it easy around somewhere like Bedford. I'm literally picturing this with some mates, hopefully Swift Performance, in the Alps somewhere one day, just cruising up and down a mountain pass, trying to get the gear changes right. Yeah, this is Tim's new baby, which is essentially the same as mine. He's just copied me. Essentially the same, yeah. And it's a manual. So Fabian has just lowered the car on the ground for the first time in a long time with the engine in, because obviously it's been sitting a little bit high at the front because it hasn't had the weight over the front axle. But it just looks so good. That's so nice to see it sitting there. The exhaust is on. Oh, this is just too good. This is just epic. Yeah, mate, let's go for it. Oh, yes! Woohoo! Russ! Oh, it moved! It's moving! Wow, that is so cool. The baby is alive. She's purring, she's purring. Happy days. That's a happy face. That's someone who's not very well, but is definitely very pleased and happy about their baby being back alive again. Right then guys, you join me in my M2 competition. The car is basically ready to go, although I am going to be leaving it here for another few days because there's a couple of bits and pieces that need doing. I had to finish this video by driving this car just out of the shutters under its own steam. It's been really exciting. It's actually been quite emotional for me seeing it being fired up. It's been off the road for a long time. It was a stressful experience when it all happened, and not one I want to live through again. Huge thanks to Russ, Tim, Josh, and obviously most recently Fabian for all the work they've done down here. These guys are amazing. They built this car in the first place to what it is now, and they have dismantled it and rebuilt it again, and I'm looking forward to doing some awesome trips in it on the road and of course back on track. I think I really have to go back to Bedford as my first track day just to get that out of my system, you know, just to clear my mind and hopefully make me realise that I can drive a manual car. I've been driving manual cars for 25 odd years. Ignition is on. Let's engage my M1 button because that opens the exhaust valves. M1 engaged. Let's fire it up. Now there's no cold start there because it's been running here for 10-15 minutes, just getting temperatures up and stuff. Fabian's been checking for any kind of leaks or whatever and making sure everything works, and it does. There's zero fault codes, nothing anywhere. It is clear and clean and happy. So yeah, I should put my seatbelt on, but I'm literally going 10 meters and it's on private land, so I'm not going to. Into first gear. Don't screw this up, Joe. Don't stall it. Maybe a little bit too much revs. I have got my big work boots on. I think I might just go down the road quickly. Down the sort of industrial road. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, this is so cool. Oh my god, I'm back in my car again. Just spin it around here. Try not to reverse it into anything. So cool, so cool, really, really cool. Guys, thanks for watching the video. Hopefully you can still see me. I've got my little lamp on, and thanks again to everyone at Swift Performance. Stay tuned for another video coming very soon on this car where I take it out for its first proper drive. Obviously this was just a drive around the industrial estate at 3 miles an hour. Yeah, looking forward to that, really am, and bringing you along for hopefully many adventures with this car throughout 2024. Take it easy and I'll see you at another video very, very soon.